Hello and welcome to the Coach's Corner. My name's Jason Flores and I'm on the line with Mitch Dingerman and Taya Frieston. Two of our other coaches are out today, but we've got a great show for you today. So we're going to start to break it down here with a couple shout outs to how our weeks are going. For me, it's been a really busy week. Between fitting some couple workouts early in the week to try to kind of squeeze things in as I've got a couple plans for the weekend. It's been a really tough week and a really test of how to kind of manage a lot of intensity in a short amount of time, as well as working with athletes and trying to figure out their weeks. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to fit all of that in to all of our athletes' schedules here in a whole week. So Taya, what have you had going on with you this week?
So this has been an easy week for me on the bike. It's a recovery week, so my workouts were not as intense, and I had more time to focus on other things, which is always nice. And the rest is not only physical; it's also mental. But I've had the chance to test out some new core workouts, so I had more time to research those and experiment with those. So there could be a video coming up soon.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, recovery weeks can be as difficult as the weeks that we're on just because our minds are just going. But as athletes ourselves and as coaches, that's one of the hardest things we do is we have to tell each other, ourselves and our athletes to kind of pull back and to kind of pull themselves out of the mix, huh?
And one of the things that I think helps quite a bit with the mental side of telling yourself that it's okay to have a recovery week is gratitude. Is using this time to be grateful for your opportunity to train, grateful for your health, and grateful really to be getting stronger and for everything that you have in your life.
I like that.
That's really good.
Yeah, it is. And that's Mitch Dingerman there on the line too. So Mitch, tell us, we missed you last week greatly, but tell us what's been going on and where you at with everything.
Yeah, I'm really focusing on the consistency and really getting back into the swing of things. I had a really nasty cold for a couple of weeks and really threw me for a loop. But life also always throws curveballs at you. So I've been really consistent or trying to get back there on the bike, keep finding other things to occupy my time between family and home projects and upcoming travel. So we're staying busy, but it's good because idle minds and idle bodies probably not the best thing in the world. So.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're getting over that cold. It can be very difficult to kind of not to kind of just push through it. And again, we see athletes do this all the time and just kind of pulling that plug and not letting your whole season go up in smoke is a really good thing. So I think you did the smart thing and I'm glad to see you back. All right, let's go to this week in the lab. I'm going to throw it over to Taya and we're going to go over the workouts that we've got at the beginning of this week and what we've got this weekend. Taya?
So we had 3 main workouts for the bike this week, and the SST Chimneys workout seems to have been everyone's favorite. It was a good workout with a mix of just above threshold, sweet spot, and then in the middle there, a little block of tempo with some surges. So everybody had great feedback about that workout. They said that they've enjoyed it. Then we had the SST pyramids. That one was a little bit deceiving in that at the beginning it seemed to be easy, but then as it progressed, people noticed that the legs were starting to feel a little bit more tired throughout the workout. I led that one in the Zwift module on Thursday, and we had about 210 riders join. So very good feedback there. The Great Tempo Wall workout, I think, is the most challenging of the 3, and some people might be doing that one on Saturday. So it is the harder workout to close up the week strong and be at a good spot for when we start the recovery week next week. So the tempo wall had a lot of changes. There was some standing, there was cadence changes, and overall having to hold tempo throughout as these changes were happening. And then lastly, the Zone 2 rides this week had a little bit of a twist. If you read the description carefully, we said that you were supposed to do a couple of high cadence drills throughout that ride just to keep your efficiency and keep your legs sharp.
Yeah, definitely a good mix of workouts for sure. And a lot of times when riders come into structured training, they hear the use of tempo or this gray area as a place where they shouldn't come back to, that we spend a lot of time there. But in fact, during this workout, it has a little bit of a very useful, very thought out process of why we're using that area of tempo, that middle zone of zone 3. So riders really pay a close attention to how that feels and where you're at. The second place that coaches will program this in is as a recovery, essentially sometimes called the floor, or just the lower part of tempo, making sure that a rider doesn't come down all the way to full recovery or zone 1 or zone 2, but keeping this kind of higher level, but still trying to recover at this tempo level. So really kind of trying to get an understanding of how us as coaches are developing you guys to be able to recover at a higher zone is going to be important. And this workout is great for that, to get you a feel for what that pace is going to be.
So imagine you're on a longer race or a long ride, and you, not super long, but something that is kind of fast paced, right? And so over time, with that floor that Jason just mentioned, which is the low tempo, you're clearing lactate. So you're flooding your legs with lactate as you go up on surges, as you attack, as you have to go up a hill, and then you fall into that tempo range as you clear lactate in your legs. So that floor becomes really important over time. And then as you raise that floor, you're able to then use that as a springboard to bounce off of it and go up again to a surge and come back to it and keep it and carry that on.
Absolutely. I have a really interesting story to share, but I will share that as we talk about outdoor rides and our training ride in the Hot Topics. I am going to attempt to be Ian and talk a little bit about the strength workouts we did this week. If you notice, there has been a slight shift in the workouts. They are a little bit shorter. The workouts are a little bit more focused, meaning they may be more upper body or more core, or just shorter intervals overall. And that is correct. I thought I was just getting stronger, but it's not the fact. It's actually in the programming. And as we do make it through the 8 weeks here, you will find that we are moving towards more of a maintenance mode as far as strength workouts go. We're going to try to build in the time in the week that you will always put aside to be able to do these maintenance workouts, to keep your core strong, to keep your upper body kind of still moving and being able to put English on the bike and be able to move the bike around when you need. So really important time to still stay on top of these strength workouts. They're not taking much time and they don't take a lot out of you too. So focusing on these strength workouts, even if it is, let's say, the second workout of a day, you focus on your SST chimneys in the beginning, and you may stack this at the end of the day, because it is a shorter workout that could work for you and then still get you a proper recovery day. All right, so let's transition over to the hot topics in the lab. So I wanted to touch on a couple things. One is how outdoor training rides and how they can be integrated into our training plan. There were a couple questions in the forum about how we can do this. And for example, last week, I took a large group of riders that were, may or may had not been on a plan, but did a really large ride, much more TSS, much more work than they would have done, let's say, on just a single Saturday for 90 minutes. But I think it's important, as we do transition outdoor, there are two ways to approach it. One, we're getting outdoors to have a good time, to be with our friends and to ride. And in that respect, you go out, and I typically tell athletes, just go out and have a good time. Get yourself, that mental break from being indoors and doing structured training, and get outside and have a good time. The second way is to do a training ride. And it is a little bit difficult sometimes. You need to get the right group of people together. And in fact, last week we did have a training ride out here in California, and it was just perfect. We had a group of riders that we were able to set expectations of what we were going to do and what our goals were, and we were able to achieve those goals. So much as, I was able to catch up with a lot of the riders the next week, and they were telling people they've never been on a ride like that. These are a lot of like IRL friends that I happen to also invite over. The focus that the riders had, that our group had, was amazing. So if you can get together with the group that say, hey, we're going to do an easy pace, we're going to do zone 2, zone 3, all stay together, and we're going to go for a couple segments, that will allow us to really open up, work on their threshold work, their VO2 max work, all of that stuff, and then regroup and have that social aspect and come together again. It can be great. So there's two ways. You just need to make sure that before you go out, you've made a decision of what you're going to do. Are you going to go out for the fun and the coffee ride and that sort of break from being indoors and doing structured training? Or if you're going to try to find that group to be able to do the training that you have. And I'll reach out to the other coaches now and kind of see what experience they've had on rides just like this outdoors and how they've integrated into the plans. I'll start with Mitch. Mitch?
Jason, this is actually a really good conversation. Last year, it's just nice getting outside. I actually did a number of workouts, even a VO2 max workout. And I live in an area where, I'm lucky I've got about a 1.25 mile road, relatively flat, doesn't have a lot of traffic. And I did VO2 max intervals on that road for about an hour and 15 minutes, tracked the workout the best I could. And what I did was I rode hard up the road, I rode easy down the road, kept doing that. And, if you can find flat stretches of road or rail trails that don't have a lot of people on them, you can actually do some decent planned workouts where you actually go through your workout and you have the right cycle computer. Pretty easy.
Absolutely. Mild inclines anywhere in the single digit climbing can be used for any of these type of workouts. There are 4, 6, 8 minute climbs around here that I do prescribe to riders, and that works well too. That's great. Taya, what about you?
So I'll start by saying that I live in a very flat place, so I have to use the wind as my hills. But the two ways in which I integrate quite a bit of workouts outdoors. One way with the group, very similar to what the two of you already mentioned. We would, at the beginning of the ride, okay, we're going to ride at a lower / moderate pace up into an area where we're going to do intervals. So we have a good time, we're talking, we're catching up on what's going on in life as we ride to an area where we can do the intervals. And when we get to that area, it might be, a closed, sort of like a square area that you go around and you do intervals. So let's say you could do a time trial. You could do and then see who goes faster. You do a couple of laps and see if you can try to get faster each lap, 15 minutes each lap. Or you could do riding out and then let's hammer on the way back. We can do a cat and mouse. So we send 2 riders up and 2 others to catch up, or 3 riders up and 5 others to catch up. Or you can even do a fast moving pace line, which is also a good way to train together. When I go solo, before I had my indoor trainer, I used to do all of my training rides outdoors, and they were structured workouts, just like we have in a lab. So you open Training Peaks and you see a description, do 5 minutes at whatever %, followed by rest and followed by another interval. I would write those down in a little piece of paper and tape them on top of my on my
Nice.
bike, and just follow that with my Garmin and do the timing. Were the intervals absolutely perfect? They were not. But that's fine. That can be done as well. That's how all training was done before so many people had all these indoor trainers at home.
You
Absolutely.
brought up a great point. That's one of my peeves. So many people chase perfect. They chase perfect in a workout, especially with stars on Zwift, or they chase perfect in their training plan. If they don't hit every workout and every day, they feel like their season's over. There's so much non-exact science on what we're doing here, and that the consistency and getting the gist of it right is probably the best you can do, and just try to be directionally correct and keep focusing and keep trying to improve, and don't worry about being perfect.
Completely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure Mitch is along with me. I'm not sure if Tia has experience with Trainer Road, but I'm sure she had the same transition of doing the outdoor rides, like she explained, moving indoors to doing something like Trainer Road, where we were just looking at kind of focused numbers and kind of zones. But then all of a sudden, with the advent of stars in Zwift, there was this new phenomenon that there was an achievement to be had if you did good. But before, we had never realized it. We're like, there's this, this zone. We want you to be within this zone. At the end, there wasn't something that said you were within 70% of that zone of accuracy. And then all of a sudden, there's become this like achievement award. And it's made it difficult sometimes for us as coaches to tell people that, it's not a light switch. Like if you're at 141, and 140 is your threshold, all of a sudden something magic doesn't happen,
right. I mean, even when you start thinking about like how close do we actually think our FTPs are to what the actual threshold is, right? I mean, there's so much that snowballs on top of itself.
Yeah, we had a huge conversation last week just about that with FTPs, and we just use it as a marker, and from there we're able to set zones in order to get stronger and make adjustments. And a lot of us are transitioning into just making minor adjustments through the year for riders versus having them recover this full week and get this on, get it going as far as like a
And I think
an
it's good to
FTP.
and I think it's good to recognize too that the stars concept, I think, is something that's ingrained in all of us coming from childhood, really, because you go to school and you do well and you do everything that you're supposed to do and you get a star from your teacher, or you get, a sticker these days. I guess, my daughter gets smelly stickers that she scratches and smells them. So it's sort of, it's really ingrained. So recognizing that that's okay. It's really not, like you said, having to have that star.
That's what we need. That the next thing that we're going to be selling everybody is going to be Endurance Lab smelly stickers. They're going to smell like Coach Ian's sweat after an SST workout.
Great.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. So let's market that right now.
All right. So the second thing I wanted to talk about, and I was hoping that Ian was going to be on, but you know what? I had a good conversation with Mitch right before this, and it was trading endurance runs for rides. But really quick, Taya, was the question that we had in the lab, was it specifically endurance run for endurance ride, or did I not quite get that right? What she was asking.
The question was, can I swap my zone 2 rides with runs?
Yeah, so with that, both are the same intensity, but I think they do have a little bit of different kind of effect on the body. So at that point, I think a decision that needs to be made, kind of what's your focus that week. And I don't think you can trade them one for one. And I think I'm going to throw it over to Mitch in a second. But I think you just need to choose what work you want to do that week. And if you need more run work, then at that point you should go out and run. And if you are short on bike work, and these are for those athletes that are looking, to swim, bike, and run. Why they do that, I don't know. Maybe Mitch can tell us. But Mitch, can you tell us about kind of trading these workouts and how you handle it?
If you've got like an hour zone 2 bike ride, trying to cross that to an hour zone 2 running, to me are two really different, especially if you're not used to running it, right? The impact on your body is going to be completely different. I mean, I think aerobically they're same, but they're just, to me, they're kind of just really different muscle systems. I know they're both your legs, but my personal experience has been that my cycling fitness doesn't always translate to my running fitness and vice versa. So, I mean, I think I'd rather you really look holistically across your schedule. And if you're a triathlete, make sure that you're actually looking at a triathlete training plan and not trying to take what we're doing from a cycling perspective and drop it on top of like running, swimming that you come up with yourself. I think you've got to really make sure all those things work together. So, I mean, I think it can be done, but I think you've got to really reduce probably the time that you're doing that zone 2.
Really good points there. All right.
So
let's talk. Go ahead, Taylor. Go ahead.
Quick comment on the run. Some lab participants are not triathletes, but they like to incorporate run into what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And perhaps they're beginning runners. They're starting to run, and it's really a short run. It's maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes max. What about in those cases?
So I guess what I'd say is I'd love to see them make sure that they're warming up effectively before they start. Even if they maybe, either they're walking or they're spinning really easy on the bike. And I think a 10, 15 minute easy run is a great idea, especially starting to run. I mean, if those folks want to have some ideas on how to really get into running, I've got some great threads at some other websites that really walk through it. But yeah, I mean, starting slow and sort of sprinkling walking and running in together, I think is a great idea.
I think that's a good point. Making sure that you're not going in too abruptly. A lot of times people will just run till they can't, and that's how people get hurt. So yeah, intermixing walking, or maybe using this as warm ups to like your strength workouts. You can integrate that. So if you're
Yep.
only doing, anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, you can easily do jog or walk and then go straight into a strength workout. And you would get those two workouts kind of, if you're doing it just for fun. Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of times what I'll do for my warm up for strength work. So I'll jog easy on the treadmill for.
Absolutely. So let's do this. Let's switch gears on over to another conversation about ERG. Yeah, start us off on that.
So last week we talked about doing the workouts out of erg, and I'm happy to see that our lab participants have been doing their workouts out of erg, and they have been sharing their experiences. So this has been very valuable in the forum, and really I can see that people are getting used to it, and it is a matter of getting used to it. So we had good posts from our participants saying that they're doing it out of erg. It actually works great. It keeps the workout more interesting. It keeps me engaged in the workout. So I'm glad to see that. We're all glad to see that as coaches here. So keep up the good work.
Yeah, a quick comment about that. I think as we do move forward, and again, it's my theory of how the endurance lab is kind of layers upon layers of what we're having them do. It's not something that we can do in ERG. It just locks you into a certain cadence, and you're just constantly fighting. So if a workout, for example, this weekend on tempo asks for you to stand and ask for you to spin up to a higher cadence, it's sometimes difficult to do on top of the ERG break. So having it outside is really going to benefit you guys. So take that idea and go with it. All right, and Taya's got a really big one here, and it happens to all of us. So, and she titled it "Life Happens." So tell us a little bit about that, Taya.
Yes, life happens. We are all very, very busy. We all have a lot going on. You never know what comes up, right? We might have our week planned, not only for workouts, but everything else we got going on in our lives. But then, of course, things pop up. So a couple of rule of thumbs here, attending to questions that came up in the forum. What happens if you miss a workout or two? So let's start by missing one workout. If you missed one and you have two more to do that week and you can do them, then of the three that we have that week, pick the ones that have the higher training stress score. So when you go to your Training Peaks calendar, you click on the workout, a summary pops up, and you look at the TSS number there. So compare those TSS numbers for the workouts and pick the two highest ones. And then let's say that you had 3 workouts that week, you missed one, you pick the other 2 that have higher TSS, then do those in the order of lower to higher TSS. If you missed one workout, but you can still do, let's say you missed one day, it was a Tuesday, but you still have time to do 3 more and you want to do 3 more, the other 3 or the 3 of the week, then maybe you could try to do 2 back-to-back, have a day off and do the third one. So that works if the following week is a recovery week. So for example, this week is a perfect example. We just finished week 2. We had a couple of riders who did back-to-back workouts, which was okay. They can push then and take a day off or 2 before the start of next week because it is a recovery week. Now, the one thing I would not recommend that riders do is if they missed a workout or 2 that they push into the following week, because then we're going to start to skew the TSS or the training stress score that we want for the following week, and we don't want that. The other topic is racing. So if somebody has a race in a given week and they want to do that race, then the recommendation is to swap one workout for the race. So if you look at your past workouts and you have an idea of, if you use Training Peaks, you might have an idea of the stress score for that workout. Find another workout with similar stress score that you replace with the race. If you are not sure what that might be, then if it's a really hard race, then find the highest TSS workout. But again, Either way, these are general rules. We're happy to help you with specific questions in the forum. So post those in, no problem at all. We can help you shift things around. But either way, don't beat yourself up for not getting all the workouts in a given week. Going back to what we're saying in training outdoors and not getting the intervals perfect and the stars, same thing with the workouts. Life happens. You might miss one. You're still benefiting from the workouts that you're doing. You're still in a structured program. You still have a lot of weeks ahead of you. So don't beat yourself up. Move on and keep that consistency.
Oh, totally. Something we fight against for ourselves as well as to our athletes is that missed workout. How are you going to squeeze it in? It's tough mentally, and a lot of times it takes someone else outside of the athlete to tell them that it's okay. So we're telling you guys, it happens. It's okay. Stay with the plan. The plan will not just end, and your fitness will not just all go away if we miss one workout, or if you end up doing a race or something like that in place of that workout. Putting things in the mix like this is very important, and making sure that you take time to take that recovery or to take that time off is important. And if you miss something, you miss something. That's okay. We understand. All right. So we're going to kind of switch over to a conversation we were having last week. There are two topics kind of on the nutrition side, a little bit more about cramping on the run. We're going to save that part for Andrea to come back and talk about, but I did want to have a conversation between us here about hunger on recovery days. So this being kind of the more of the higher TSS week, as we do a build through 3 weeks and then go into a recovery week, during the days in between, sometimes you can feel that your body is kind of craving higher caloric or just more food overall. I'm going to have Tia kind of share her experience, and then hopefully we can have a little bit of a conversation on how we can help riders in the lab with these sort of things on recovery days.
We have a good thread in the forum about this, and that what prompted me to start that thread was my recovery week this week. So there I am on Monday after really hard workouts on the weekend, and it's a day off the bike. Actually, it's a recovery day. I did just a very easy spin for 30-45 minutes, and I'm just hungry. I'm so hungry, and I am afraid of eating because I think to myself, well, I am not going to be working hard today, so if I eat a lot, I'm just going to be eating more than I need to. And so really the thought here is the body's hungry. So you have to rule out boredom. Do you want to eat because you're bored, or is it really hunger? In my case, it was hunger. The stomach was growling. It's like, I need food. There's a hole. There's a hole in my stomach. I need to eat something. Well, you have to listen to your body, right? Your body's telling you it needs nutrients. And that's, I think, a good way to look at hunger. It's the body seeking nutrients, not necessarily calories. So not just putting food in to satisfy it, because if you just eat something that's highly caloric, but it's not the nutrients that your body needs, then you're still going to be hungry. Good example of eating just, something with empty calories. So that would be the first point. And what are you hungry for? You have to look at good food choices and not worry about calories as long as you're making good choices. So you're eating, foods that are nutritious. Are you hungry for carbs? Are you then maybe you need to replenish your glycogen stores. Are you hungry for protein? Maybe your body's needing some repair or some immune system boost. So those are the things. So it's okay to eat when you're hungry, and it's okay to eat on your days off. Just make good food choices and listen to your body in terms of it needs nutrients.
No, absolutely second that. And making those choices to fill your plate, to get those nutrients that you need. Sometimes it's hard for our athletes to not understand, but to get a feel for what it actually does need. So a lot of times on those rest days, you can easily shift the macros or kind of the things that you're putting in, instead of being carbohydrate centric to kind of refuel those stores. It can be more protein centric, adding an extra piece of protein that you have during your meals, getting more greens in during those days. On those days, I also make sure that athletes, that that do well with fat are adding that as well, because those things between fat and protein can keep you very full and kind of shut off those hunger signals during these days on recovery day, and can easily cycle essentially your nutrition on the days that you work out and the days that you're not. And so kind of taking, Andrea would say, like a journal of food that you're taking. It can be as simple as just writing down what you ate each day. It can give you an idea of what you're eating on each of those recovery versus workout days. And you can kind of cycle through those. And just some minor changes can make a difference in how you feel when you're on and off the bike. So just something to think about.
One thing that I do also on recovery days is start the day with a green smoothie.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing about that smoothie is the nutrition again. It's giving your body all those nutrients from the start. And I think, Mitch, you had a post there about
Mm-hmm.
a smoothie, didn't you?
Yeah,
really
no,
good.
that smoothie recipe is an immune boosting smoothie. Was found either on a triathlete or a cycling website. It's I mean, it's good enough that my girls will drink it, and I found that if you throw in some chia seeds and some protein, you really turn it more into a meal instead of kind of.
Yeah, and having that first thing in the morning can definitely kind of set the right mood for a recovery day. You've got plenty of greens in there. You've got plenty of nutrition, and it'll be a good thing so that you're not feeling hungry all throughout the day because you're just trying to force yourself to be low calorie on that recovery day because you're not doing work. As we talk about things first thing in the morning, Mitch has got a really interesting conversation about caffeine, not only in the form of coffee, but as far as performance enhancements. But Mitch, tell us what you found, and let's share it with the lab writers.
Yeah, so I'm a real big fan of coffee, but beyond even just coffee, I think we've all seen when we go buy the gels at the store, they've got caffeine in them. There's sports drinks with caffeine in them. So I think we all intuitively know that there's something going on with caffeine as far as performance enhancement. And actually, if you get into the science or get into the regulations, it's actually a regulated drug as far as the drug testing. So there's a known kind of quantity around caffeine that it does something to enhance our performance. So going to the research and looking at this week, it can help us in many different factors. So it can help us in short efforts, like in sprints. It can help in longer efforts, and it can help in a variety of other ways. So in shorter efforts, what it does is it has neuromuscular impact. I'm not going to go into the details because it's science that's beyond kind of mine, but they found that a caffeine boost going into like a sprint or a real short, hard effort enhances your performance. In longer events, they've actually found that it delays fatigue by reducing your perception of effort. So the caffeine, I think we've all maybe tried this, right, on an FP test or a race. We've ingested some caffeine beforehand, hoping that we kind of don't notice our effort and don't feel the pain or the suffering quite as much. But there's other things that it does in a longer effort as well. They've actually found that ingesting caffeine prior to an event will actually increase the level of free fatty acids in your bloodstream and increase the fat burning during exercise. So what it does is the caffeine kind of shifts your body into that burning of and delays the burning of the glycogen stores in your legs. So you really delay the time that you're going to actually use up that glycogen in your legs. So you delay your fatigue. So that's a great thing. So it allows you to, go longer and harder and faster and perform kind of more of an effort before you fatigue. Now, what's interesting, though, is that these same studies show that the more often you use caffeine, the less of this impact you'll get. So if you're like me and you're drinking 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day, this impact is not going to be there quite as strong as somebody who doesn't ingest caffeine and then just does it for a race. So what they actually recommend is that if you're one of these people who drinks coffee daily, is that 5 or 6 days before an event, you kind of wean yourself off the caffeine and then you come back on it for the event and you can go back into your regular coffee or ways. Now, some of the other criticism that you'll sometimes hear about caffeine is, well, everyone knows it's a diuretic, right? If you drink a lot of coffee or a lot of caffeine, you have to go to the bathroom. Now, they've actually found that in studies, scientific studies, that when you couple caffeine with exercise, the diuretic effects are minimized and negated. So you don't really need to worry about that too much in a race or in a fitness situation. So the other question then is, well, how much should you have? So if you're a 150-pound athlete, 30 to 60 minutes prior to event, you need to have the amount of caffeine that you'd find in, say, 14 to 17 ounces of drip coffee. Now, if you're like me, I'm not like so a lot of times I've used caffeine gels and things prior to half marathons because I used to run. I really have no desire to drink a 16-ounce coffee or on one is too much liquid in my stomach, and then two, I'm going to have to find a porta potty halfway through the race because that liquid's got to go somewhere. So look for gels. If you're going to have a carbohydrate boost before the event, look for gels that would have somewhere between 340 to 400 milligrams of caffeine for 150 pounds. The other questions then, we talked about daily. So beyond the fact that, the habitual use of caffeine will decrease the impacts it has on a race, the other thing that we always got to remember too is that most of our workouts are not maximal effort. So you do not need to ingest caffeine prior to your workouts because you're not really going at a maximal effort. We're doing intervals, we're stressing our body to a certain degree, and then we're recovering. So you do not need to be drinking your coffee to get your best out of your workout on a daily basis. And then the other fascinating thing I found, which I think goes along with the comments on the nutrition and how it impacts your body's ability to digest certain nutrients, they found that it actually helps in recovery. So it increases your body's ability to process carbohydrates, resulting in higher glycogen numbers. So really, if you're me, I'll work out, then I'll have maybe a healthy smoothie or something, but make sure you're also having your coffee, which isn't too hard for a lot of us because it's going to actually help your body rebuild those glycogen numbers in your muscle. So don't feel guilty about your coffee. Don't feel guilty about caffeine. Just use it wisely. And if you're coming up to a big event and you want an extra boost, wean yourself off your caffeine.
Yeah, I think some really good comments there. And about the periodization, essentially, is what we're talking about. Taking a time where you're off of that higher level of caffeine. One really good way I have found in the past is switching people over to green tea. And the reason why it is a different ingredient rather than caffeine, it actually is L-theanine, and it is not as impactful both on sleep or performance as caffeine is. So they can take a week of, in fact, they can't go without drinking anything. L-theanine could be a great substitute for that week or so before your main event. That way you are still able to get the full effect of caffeine during that performance. Taya, are you a caffeine drinker?
I am a caffeine drinker. I was off coffee for a couple of years and only on matcha green tea, but then back to coffee. The interesting thing about caffeine is also when it peaks in the body, and the studies show that it peaks 60 minutes after you ingest it. So that goes into the comment that Mitch had on taking it 30 to 60 minutes prior to your race, and then it stays in your body and it decreases in intensity, let's say. So, I think it takes about 4 hours to be at 50% in your bloodstream. So just to give you an idea of timing it, and if you're on a longer ride, if you need to have another boost of caffeine.
Absolutely. Yeah. So timing that on those days that you are having it for rides is important. And if you need to replenish, it's important. On days that you don't, let's say you're on a recovery day or just a day that you're not riding, making sure you keep it away from your sleep, anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. As far as the half-life or how long it lasts is really important as well. You don't want it to affect your sleep. So having it earlier in the day versus later can be very helpful. For those of us who work out at 3 a.m, having it just before lunch or after lunch can be helpful so that you can still be awake with your family at dinner. So it can be a long day. So, all right, excellent. Really quickly on the horizon, I'm just going to go over the group workouts that we have in the module. Mitch is going to be doing a workout. He just broke, I think it was 120 this week, right, Mitch, on your workout?
Yeah, we had a really great group.
Awesome.
It was fun to see.
Yeah, more and more riders, I think they're just liking the variety when they do catch what we're doing and how it's changing every week and that there's a lot of interaction. So if you have a chance to get on, definitely get on. It's at 5:30 Eastern in the morning. That's 3 strength steps is what we'll be doing. And then on Thursday, Taya will be doing the same workout. And I think she reached 200 riders this week at noon Eastern time with the 333 strength steps. And Stefan is actually doing a great job leading on Thursdays at 5:15 a.m. Eastern time, and he's going to be doing 2110 high cadence drills, and he's been doing great with interaction, and his live stream is awesome. So definitely bringing new riders and in that time slot. And then lastly, we have Michelle and Phil down under doing pyramid intervals. And if you're thinking that's so different than what we're all else doing, it's because the season is completely different down under. It is like racing season there, so they are doing kind of the hard fast intervals down under. So it's a great time if you have some time to join them on Sunday. And then Taya, what else do we have on the horizon here for Endurance Lab in the coming weeks?
We talked a little bit about training outdoors during this Coach's Corner today. And there was also a specific question about future endurance labs and will there be methods to do most of the workouts outdoors? Because, of course, people want to enjoy the weather. And the answer is yes. So as we progress in the season here and we have future labs, the workouts, there will still be a workout that we would recommend doing on a trainer. And I think it's still good to do at least one workout on a trainer during outdoor season, 2 even if you can. But having said that, the workouts themselves will be such that you can do what I said, which is putting a little piece of paper, sticking it to your bike, and bringing it outdoors with you so you can do intervals. It won't be super complicated intervals with a lot of changes. For example, the threshold mix, if you're in the last lab, something that it's hard to replicate outdoors. It will be more outdoor friendly workouts that you're going to be able to do, no problem.
That's awesome. So excellent. So really looking forward to the group workouts this week. And as we integrate more outdoor workouts, everybody's asking about them. So that is something that we have in our minds and we're ready for that. Great conversation about caffeine today, as well as a lot of the hot topics as far as, recovery days and that sort of thing. And just understanding that life happens and there's changes that we're going to need. And anytime you need any support, we are at the forum, endurancelab.fit. Check out the forum there. Really great topics. And if you need any help or outreach, reach out to us as the coaches there. And from the coaches here, Taya and Mitch, I want to thank you guys for all listening in. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, go to iTunes and search the Endurance Lab, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel where we have our live streams there as well. And you can check that out at it and search Endurance Lab on YouTube. So thanks again to everybody, and click subscribe on all those channels. Check out the group workouts. What's the worst that can happen? You can hear our wonderful voices every week along with all of our other great shows. And again, thanks everybody, and we will see you next week in the Coach's Corner.